go. Put down that phone. Put it down. Time to do a show.
Hey, 1 second. Give me a second. You go ahead, start the show. Talk to the people. I'll be done just a second. Go ahead.
All right. Well, hi, unclear thinkers. It's that time again. And as soon as I'm Larry Smoke, by the way, and that guy over there, who I'm patiently waiting to finish indulging his addiction.
1 second.
Is John Bates.
Okay. All right.
Who will eventually join us.
I'm ready.
All right. You're hooked on that thing, aren't you? Admit it.
We all are. I mean,
yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
Damn
exactly.
Phones.
Yeah. Are you ever more than 30 feet from your phone?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
Me either. I'm learning, actually. I'm getting a little better about that. But I'd say that's not horribly uncommon. Admittedly, people in my social circles tend to be like me. That's why they're in my social circles.
Amen.
But everyone in my office environment has a smartphone. All of the pastors and most of the workers at my church have a smartphone. Most of my friends have a smartphone, and the ones that don't, I pick on. It's the way things go. I know
that's
that
typical of society in general. I think of all mobile phone use in the United States, we won't talk about the rest of the world, but in the United States, I think smartphone penetration is something like 80% or better of all mobile phone use.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, yeah, it's not worldwide, but frankly, that's why the big companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, and the smartphone manufacturers have started making inroads in India and Africa. And frankly, I've read reports that in Africa, smartphones are the way people get on the internet. They don't have computers.
Right.
They can't afford computers, but they can afford a nice, cheap phone.
In the third world, the smartphone is the personal computer, yes.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's a rare thing. I had a friend a few years ago. She had a flip phone. That was all she had. Got great battery life, made excellent phone calls, got great reception, and did exactly what she wanted it to do, and I used to pick at her about it. Now, she has since gotten a smartphone. She got an Apple iPhone 4S a year or so back, which is a slightly dated smartphone. But you know what? Now she uses it for lots of stuff. She finds herself checking her social networks and texting and things like that all the time.
We all drink the Kool-Aid eventually.
But in this case, and yes, there are problems associated with, or rather than saying smartphones, let's say information gadgets, because I got a smartphone, I've got a tablet, I've got a Microsoft Band. I am constantly connected and getting information about I'm getting information about how I sleep, getting information about how many steps I take, getting information about what my friends are doing, events around the world.
And that's true, because whenever I do anything on social media, you are the first person to acknowledge it, without fail.
Well,
which I appreciate, don't get me wrong.
My old and close friends are all on my notifications list. So when you guys post stuff, it pops up. And it's very easy for me to go check it. Oh, there, you're like, see, I've seen it. I'm acknowledging your existence. That's what I'm doing.
And that's important to me, to be acknowledged, because I'm starved for attention that way.
That's right.
I'm becoming the narcissist that everyone says these devices are making us.
So why don't we talk about some of the problems, and then we'll talk about some of the reasons that we get this way.
I don't have a problem. You have a problem. I don't have a problem.
There's a new quasi-medical condition called texting neck. And it's because people are walking around with their head tilted down, forward and down all the time. And it's starting to cause pain in the neck and in the upper back and things like that. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people are walking around completely unaware of the world around them. Walk into a door, walk into a person.
Orthopedists are seeing increases of what used to was trigger finger, and whereas these days it's from rapid text, incessant texting.
Right. Phantom phone syndrome. I've had that before. I've had my phone might not be in my pocket, or it might be in my pocket, and I put it on airplane mode, and I'll still think that I hear a vibration or feel a vibration.
Yeah.
Of some incoming thing.
Which would cause you more panic, leaving your house without your wallet or without your phone?
Phone.
Yeah, same here.
I'd feel disconnected. And you know, like I said, there are reasons that I pay such attention to my phone. My calendar is on there. Everything that I need to remember is there. All of my contacts are on there. If I need to call someone or get in touch with someone, that's where it is. I don't have to carry an address book around with me. I carry my phone. I don't have to have a calendar on the wall or another calendar at my office or whatever. All of my calendars are linked and synced, and they're with me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I have Evernote, so I am keeping notes on various things that I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
I have, well, social media doesn't count as a necessity, but yeah, I'd say having your calendar and your contact list with you is kind of a necessity these
Mm-hmm.
days. I can keep up with my bank and all of my financial information on my phone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are several useful tools and apps. If I need to go somewhere I've never been before, my phone will tell me how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's my GPS.
Mm-hmm.
I have my calendar, my mail, my bills come through there. I have a bill reminder on there. I keep up with my checkbook on there or my bank account. I don't have a checkbook anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My photo album, my filing cabinet, my recipe book, my workout log, my alarm clock, my Rolodex. If I wanted to, I could read a lot of my books on my phone, although I have a tablet for that because it's easier to read.
Mm-hmm.
My music is on my phone, and I can also watch television on it if I wanted to. Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime Video. I'm a cord cutter. I got rid of cable. So I literally watch entertainment on my computer, and I could get it all on my phone if I wanted to.
And that's, you said that about your computer, because I was going to point out we're focusing on smartphones because that's the device that we see everybody using and indulging in this air quotes addiction that we're talking about. But it's personal computer technology in general. I've worked a desk job, office management, for more than 15 years, and I've gone from using a desk pad blotter type calendar and a Rolodex and a day planner faux leather contact list data manager thing, walking around with it, and all those things have gone away. I've got between, well, because at home I'm in the Apple ecosystem, so everything there is iCloud, and at work I'm forced to use Microsoft products. But I say forced, I mean I don't mind, but still, the fact is I'm juggling two ecosystems. But I've got all these things on a 24-inch monitor in front of me. I'm like you. I've got mail, contacts, all information I could want in the world at my fingertips. I've got my fitness data that comes through my iPhone to the Fitbit program that I use. All these things are ready at hand, and we're indulging in this access.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, at my office place, we're on an enterprise system, so I can share my calendar with my coworkers. They can share their calendar with me. They can they can send me an appointment request if we have a meeting, or if we have something that one or two of us needs to do together. They can send me a request. It'll pop up on my calendar, and I can either say I'm busy, we need to reschedule that for another time, or I can say accept, and it'll automatically put it on my calendar and then send me a reminder later. The email's there. The system we use to manage our clients is linked throughout the entire network, so anyone on the entire system can pull up information on any client at any time and get the information they need. And it's a lot less clunky than it used to be. It's definitely handy. It's definitely something that has done what it's supposed to do and given us more information constantly. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with caveats. It doesn't mean that you don't have to make sure you're not overdoing it or becoming too attached or too involved and ignoring the world at large around you because you're getting so much information constantly.
We spent a few minutes justifying our use of technology in general, smartphones in particular. We're grown-ups. We have wage-earning uses for these devices, so we can justify most anything. What about school kids? What about folks that don't necessarily need, and I know need is defined different ways by different people, but since this is our show, we'll define it the way we want it.
Right.
Need to use the technology. We see people walking down the street, faces buried in their phones, never looking up. I've seen people walk into poles while texting.
Yep.
I read articles about nomophobia is the loosely defined term. No mobile phobia, the fear of being away from your phone. Reports of people texting while driving, people texting in the shower, people texting during sexual activity. I'll put the link in the show notes, people. That there's reports of that out there. I mean, this is a problem. I mean, it got to be. I don't see how any logical person could say that's not a problem. So how do we identify? How do we look at somebody and even if we don't tell them they have a problem, at least realize they have a problem? I mean, at what point does this use become a problem?
I'd say at the point where you are being so distracted from everything that happens around you that you're not aware of the world around you anymore. It's an individual thing. It's an easy
But the
trap to fall
world
into,
around
but
you is virtual now. If you're indulging in these activities in these devices, you are indulging the world in the larger sense around you. The world is being brought to you.
right, but you're ignoring your immediate environment. You're ignoring the people directly in front of you so that you can converse with people around the globe. You're ignoring, I occasionally I teach self-defense seminars, and one of the things I key in on in the self-defense seminar is awareness. There are 4 A's: awareness, alertness, awareness, avoidance, and aggression. That's the 4 keys to the 4 A's for self-defense. Awareness is something that a lot of people don't have these days. Our attention is split in so many different directions that we can't focus on any one thing at a time. That's when it becomes problematic. And that's the answer to your question is, how do we know when it's a problem? Well, we know it's a problem when it's a problem. It's like, how do you know when drinking's a problem? Well, if your drinking is starting to consume your life, it's starting to overflow into other areas of your life besides having a drink with your buds and, relaxing on an evening with a glass of wine or beer or something like that, then it's a problem.
Well, what about the consumers of this technology that are not capable of realizing they have a problem and shouldn't be expected to, namely children? How many parents hand an iPad to a 3-year-old as a instant babysitter?
Well, yeah, but the television served that purpose when we were kids. How many parents would sit their kids in front of the TV and say, "Here, watch TV while I do this"? That's an issue with parenting, and that's a bit larger.
Tablets and smartphones are a lot more interactive than television.
That's true.
A child has some more tactile control than with a television.
And they manufacture tablets that are designed to resist being bounced off the floor by little people who can't hold on to them properly. But once again, that's an issue with parenting. It's not, the technology is not at fault.
No,
it's how we respond to the technology.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, and I agree. Some parents do use this stuff as babysitters because they don't want to be bothered dealing with their own children. Or they're so incredibly busy because modern society has made us constantly busy. You're looked down on in modern society if you're not constantly busy, especially with your job. Parents sometimes don't have time for their kids, and that's a problem that's going to lead to bigger problems with our society. And it is definitely something we need to pay attention to. I think it's something we need to pay attention to on a kind of an individual basis, though.
Some of the reading that I did leading up to this discussion, a Time Magazine article in particular, that, again, folks, I'll have that in the show notes so you can see it for yourself. It mentions that a lot of these children coming up, the preschool to elementary school age children now that have grown up in the smartphone era, roughly 2005 to now, are almost incapable of focusing on any one topic, subject, object in front of them for longer than 3 minutes before they must shift to something else. The inability to maintain attention on a single point of focus is being lost with the ease of bouncing around from site to site, subject to subject, device to device, method of input to method of input.
Right. And there are also articles out there suggesting that kids who grow up using these devices constantly and grow up in specific texting or communicating via the written word on an internet-connected device are starting to lack empathy. They are not good at judging people's emotional responses through facial and physical cues.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some schools, well, Not a lot, but some teachers have started instituting empathy training in the school systems. Once again, this is going to come down. It's a growing pain of society, and society is going to have to figure out how to deal with it, and it's going to have to find its balance. And I'd suggest that that happens when you get any sort of major technological or cultural shift. You know, you've seen the movie Gangs of New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a cultural shift that came when you started crowding lots and lots and lots of people into cities rather than them being scattered out in smaller villages and things like that. And you had lots of different cultures that were attempting to blend together in a very small area.
Being forced to acknowledge one another.
Right. And eventually that sort of leveled itself out. A society either levels itself or destroys itself. That's how it goes. So I'm kind of hoping that we level ourselves. I'm not necessarily a history is a rising road kind of guy, but I think it has dips and potholes too. But I think society can deal with this situation. It's just got to come to grips with. If you think about it, the entire smartphone computer in my hand thing is not even a decade old.
Yeah.
When the
Again,
iPhone
the
come out?
smartphone era is roughly 2005 to now.
Yeah. So yeah, just 10 years right now. Just hit that. And so.
And I correct people sometimes to their annoyance that they say, yeah, how can I be expected to spend $700, $800, $900 on a phone? It's not a phone. It's a computer.
Right.
You have a machine
than...
in your pocket that can record video, can edit audio, can access the world's information database, can make video conference call, and this device is in your pocket, and you think you're going to walk out of a store with one for $150? You have to acknowledge the power of what you're carrying around. It's not a phone.
That's right. That phone, that computer in your hand, is at least several hundred times more powerful than the PC that you and I used to play games on when we were in high school.
Yes.
And yours had a turbo button.
Yeah.
For
all the good it did.
Yeah.
I mean, there are filmmakers making probably making feature-length films, but I mean, you see them on Vimeo. They're making high-quality short films on iPhones.
That's right.
I mean, these things shoot 4K video. And can be edited on the phone. It's amazing what these computers can do, and I think people don't stop and realize that sometimes. Well, with those of, well, I started to say those of us. Maybe I shouldn't include myself automatically. the folks that overindulge in social media, in texting, in wrap themselves up in these devices. Is all that a sign of an addictive personality? Is it a signal that we all just crave interaction that much? What do you think?
Well, I mean, if it's a sign of that, then it's a sign that everyone has the potential for addictive personality, which I don't think is necessarily. Yes, we all can get obsessed with a certain thing. I don't think that means that every person has an addictive person. I don't think a psychologist would say it that way. I'm sure that there are clinical definitions of what addiction and addictive personality
well, maybe addictive personality was the wrong phrase to use. I was trying to get more to craving interaction. We've said before, if it wasn't for you and I are we're looking at each other via a Google Hangout call right now.
Yep.
We've said before, if it wasn't for this technology, we would not interact anywhere near as much as we do now. And I think it's fantastic. And you and I have been friends for 35, almost 40 years.
Yeah.
And there was a period of time in our younger adulthood where we would talk on the phone once every blue moon, but we were nowhere near communicating as often as we do now.
Right.
And without this technology, you and I would not be as close as communication wise as we are now. We have other friends that we see on a regular basis, virtually via the internet, that we would not otherwise. Humans are social animals. We all crave interaction at some kind of instinctual level.
Yep.
this technology is, in my opinion, the best way ever invented for people to expand their social circles, to maintain their social circles across great distance. But I'm sure that, like all things, it can be taken to an excess. I mean, you ever had a clingy girlfriend? I mean, anybody can get too interactive. At what point do we? What am I trying to say? At what point are we not using the technology, or are we abusing it, or is there a point?
Well, we all want to connect with each other, and we all want acknowledgement. I mean, the first time you post something online and a whole bunch of people pay attention to it, it's a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's acclamation, and we all kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, personal example. I have weaned myself way back on using my phone and on posting on social media and things like that. I used to constantly go through these bursts during the day where I would get online and I would share and post about 15, 20 things that I thought were interesting, and they'd all come in a great big burst. And then a few hours would go by and I get back on and I do it again, and I get back on and I do it again, and then I was checking up with all of my friends, and I was checking in on their posts and commenting, and it felt nice to share things. It felt nice to acknowledge other people and have them acknowledge me. I'm making an effort these days to do that a lot less. I try not to share nearly as much as I used to. I only share things if I think it's truly, truly interesting. I don't find myself commenting on everyone else's post. I teach some classes at the Y. So I've gotten in the habit of occasionally putting my phone in airplane mode so that it can't disturb me during a class or anything like that.
That's a good idea.
I got a friend I hang out with sometimes who finds it rude if you're in conversation and you take a text. So I've gotten in the habit of learning to ignore my phone there. I think it's just a matter of understanding that you don't have to reply to everything immediately. And that you don't have to constantly be out there in the social circle. And it's, like I said, it's an individual thing. You have to recognize if you're going too far and you have to pull back. You and I both have a friend who has a tendency to share about 9 million things over the course of a day. They will get online. I'm not saying he or she.
I think I know who we're talking about.
Yes, I'm not saying he or she. They will get online and there will be a burst of about, my phone will suddenly blow up. Blah shared, blah shared, blah shared, blah shared, and it's just there. And then I'm like, oh Lord, okay, okay, all right, I got you. And then there'll be a gap, and then it'll happen again. I think that, especially for people who don't get to interact with people on a regular basis in their daily lives, that social media is that interaction they're craving, and it's a safer form of it too, because you don't have to say a thing to someone's face. And you can pretty much justify any opinion you want to have.
Yeah, in a way, I'm starting to feel a bit like hit dog hollers, because what you're saying is striking home. I interact with people, but I'm interacting with the same 7 to 10 people all the time. And as I've previously mentioned, I've had this same job for many, 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 many years. So with no offense intended whatsoever, how much new and original things can you say to people that you see 9 hours a day, 5 days a week for 15 years? So social. So I admit I do crave some social media interaction. I try to contribute. I won't say share. I won't say post, because I do some of both. I try to contribute to Facebook, Twitter, Google+, at least once a day, in some form or another. Some days I'll share something. Some days I'll put a photo up. Some days I'll post a status. Some days I'll put a link to my blog, smokeworld.com, people. Something, because I mean, I look at social media to see what people who interest me are up to at that moment. I hope that there's somebody out there seeing what I post and is mildly interested in it. I mean, I hope you are, and people in our social circle. Does that make me needy, clingy? I don't think it does.
So.
I mean, I'm a human being. I want interaction. And
That's right.
And to get back to what I said earlier, this technology allows me a level of interaction that I didn't have 10, 15 years ago.
And like you said, you said the word contribute, and that's what view it. We are contributing. We are finding things that we find interesting and sharing it with people that are like us that might find it interesting as well. So the key, I think, is contributing. It's not necessarily, at least for me, it's not necessarily that I am online or dealing with this stuff because I want to be seen. Is I want to share things that I find interesting. And also, I have a habit. Every day I use my phone or I use my computer, and I find people who have birthdays, and I make sure that I say happy birthday to that person, even if I barely know them, because
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody deserves to have someone say happy birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I often, if there are posts from people out there and I notice that they don't have too many likes, I'll pay attention to it. And if I agree with it at all or just find it innocuous, I'll throw in a like just to let them see that, hey, someone else out here in the world has paid attention to you so that they can have the acknowledgement. And the phones connect us to that. They connect us to each other. The smart devices, the computers, they connect us to each other in ways we never were before. We just have to avoid the pitfalls. I read an article postulated 5 behavioral changes that first world cultures are seeing in populations. And I would suggest that third world cultures are going to start seeing that too, because as we mentioned, these devices are becoming the internet connected computers of the third world.
Probably even more important to those societies than they are to our own.
Right. So increased danger on roads as more people use gadgets as they drive. Not just texting, but voice texting, GPS usage. I heard an article recently that suggested that it takes 20, it was 19, is either 19 or 29 seconds after you glance at your phone for you to become fully aware of the road and the road conditions around you again. That's a long gap.
Yeah.
And that's just from looking over at your phone to check the GPS or to pause a podcast that you're listening to or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we've heard from law enforcement and from some of the phone carriers ad campaigns that texting and driving is worse than driving drunk.
Right.
As far as attention focus.
I saw MythBusters. They tested that.
Oh, okay. If they say it, it must be so.
That's right. And they're going to end soon. This is their last season. As you said, using electronics as babysitting tools may be slowly raising a generation that no longer effectively communicates face-to-face, even when face-to-face. We both talked about that. That's the number 2 thing this article mentioned. And social networking may be turning us increasingly into spectators. And I'd say not just social networking, but I saw a cartoon recently that suggested that if the Titanic sank today, all of the people were bobbing around in the water holding their smartphones up, recording the boat as it sank. Yeah, and you see these things of something horrible happens. A guy gets hit by a car or something else happens, and someone is recording it with their phone rather than running over to help. Now, some people are running over to help, but some people are recording it because they want to be the first to post it or whatever the case may be. It's taking us out of the world and turning us into watchers rather than experiencers. That's a problem.
Plus, they want the hits, too.
That's right. Shortened attention spans. You talked about that.
Yeah.
And we may be entering an ethical divide. If information is easy to get and free on the internet, some people don't think of, like, if you pirate a song off the internet or a movie or whatever, there's becoming a growing distinction between theft and piracy. People would say, no, I would never go into a store and shoplift a DVD, or I would never go into a store and shoplift a CD of this album or whatever the case may be. But what's the harm if I go on the internet and find it for free? Someone's already posted it there and it's free. It's not like I'm stealing. It's there.
Well, not that this is my philosophy, but the counterpoint to that is when you go into a store and swipe a physical object, you are taking something and leaving nothing in its place. When you get a copy of something off the web, you are leaving what you found in its place. You are just taking a copy. So you're not denying anything to anybody. The other party still has their possession. You just happen to have one too.
That's
not
true.
that I would subscribe to that theory, mind you.
That's true. But the content producer would probably say, yes, if I make this content once and everybody shares it and I only get paid for one copy, then I have no incentive to ever make content again.
I know.
But models are changing. Now people are making content posting for free and getting paid off ad revenue.
Right.
So that's a different model altogether. And the world's going to have to change with it. And I think that's the point, is that, yes, we are having to deal with a growing focus on these gadgets. I have gadgets that tell me if I'm sleeping correctly. And you can you get too much data and not enough information sometimes. We're going to have to adapt to that. We're going to have to figure out how our societies can have enough information to function and not so much that we are trapped in the world of information and cut off from the physical, environmental world around us. You know, without the internet, I would have never found out about MoveNet and the movement culture.
Yeah.
And the movement culture and MoveNet have connected me back into the world in a stronger way than I ever was before. So I don't know.
And without this technology, we would not be meeting on a regular basis and making me feel comfortable admitting all of my personal failures to you in this public forum.
And without this technology, we would not be able to post this so that at least a handful of people could listen to it.
That is correct. And those people listening, I hope, will be forthcoming enough to admit to us if they think they have this same sickness, psychological hang-up, disease that I freely admit to. I don't know whether you freely admitted to it, but I certainly do. Do you think you have a problem? Do you think it is a problem? How has technology affected your level of interaction with the world around you? Does it affect your level of interaction with the world around you? Let us know. As usual, you can find us unclearthinking@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as we've just said, we love social media interaction. I can be found Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Instagram, at LA Smoke, all those platforms. John, how can the folks find you and indulge your need for attention and affirmation?
Twitter is @Cuhullen, Cuhullen. I've got a WordPress site that's Cuhullen at wordpress.com.
Well, I guess on that note, I might better check my phone because I've been talking to you for about half an hour now, and I'm getting the twitches. I got to see what's happening in the digital realm. So,
What? Sorry, I was looking at something.
Yeah, you sicko.